question at hand concerns the installation of 3 2-pole 50-amp breakers within a 100-amp single-phase residential meter main panel, and whether this configuration adheres to the 80% capacity rule as outlined in the National Electrical Code, or NEC. The 80% rule is designed to prevent overloading of feeder conductors, mitigating the risk of overheating and potential fire hazards. It also ensures the conductors have sufficient capacity for the anticipated load. NEC Section 408.31 addresses panel board overcurrent protection, stipulating that the overcurrent protection of the panel board shall not exceed 80% of the panel board's ampacity. This means a 100-amp panel board should ideally have a main breaker or overcurrent protection device rated no higher than 80 amps. Applying this rule to the scenario with 3 2-pole 50-amp breakers, we need to assess the total load imposed by these breakers on the panel. Since each 2-pole breaker is rated at 50 amps, the combined ampacity of all 3 breakers would be 150 amps. This is derived by adding the amperage of each breaker together. 50 amps plus 50 amps plus 50 amps equals 150 amps. Considering the 80% rule, the maximum allowable overcurrent protection for a 100-amp panel is 80 amps. The total load of 150 amps from the 350-amp breakers significantly exceeds this limit. Therefore, the initial installation is not compliant with the 80% rule. To rectify the situation, there are a couple of approaches. Firstly, the 3 2-pole 50-amp breakers could be replaced with 3 2-pole 40-amp breakers. This would reduce the total load in the panel, bringing it within the allowable limit. 3 2-pole 40-amp breakers would result in a total load of 120 amps, which, when considering that each leg of the panel can handle 40 amps without exceeding the 80-amp threshold, makes this a code-compliant installation. Secondly, an additional 100-amp breaker could be installed in a panel, and the existing 3 2-pole 50-amp breakers could be moved to the new breaker. This would require careful consideration of the panel's physical space and the available breaker slots, as well as adherence to all applicable NEC regulations. It's important to emphasize the significance of the 80% rule in ensuring electrical safety and preventing overloads. Exceeding the capacity of the panel can lead to various issues, including overheating of conductors, insulation damage, and an increased risk of electrical fires. Therefore, it's crucial for electrical installations to comply with this rule to protect both property and individuals. Moreover, it's important to conduct a load calculation to accurately determine the actual load demand of the building and ensure that the panel has sufficient capacity to handle the expected load. A load calculation takes into account various factors, such as the size of the building, the types of appliances and equipment being used, and the anticipated usage patterns. In addition to NEC Section 408.31, there may be other relevant sections that pertain to this specific installation. It's always advisable to consult the latest edition of the NEC and any applicable local codes to ensure full compliance. Remember, electrical work should only be performed by qualified and licensed electricians who have the knowledge and expertise to ensure safety and code compliance. The information provided here is for educational purposes only and should not be considered a substitute for professional electrical advice. Always seek the guidance of a qualified electrician for any electrical installations or modifications.